Hello, welcome to Anita the Pedagogue channel. Today we continue with our literature and English lessons, and our focus is going to be The Gods Are Not to Blame, written by Nigerian playwright Ola Rotimi. Now for our lesson content, we will look at a biography of the playwright, the title, its meaning and implication, the setting, the analysis of the three acts. We will look at the language and style, character development, the themes, and I will share with you some likely examination questions. Let's get started with a biography of the playwright Ola Rotimi. Ola Rotimi was born in the year 1938 and passed on in 2000. He was one of Nigeria's most respected playwrights, theatre directors, and scholars. Born in Sapele to a Yoruba father and an Ijaw mother, Rotimi's mixed heritage influenced his deep interest in Nigeria's cultural diversity, a theme that runs through many of his plays. He studied theatre in the United States, earning a degree in fine arts from Boston University and a master's in playwriting and dramatic literature from Yale University. While abroad, he wrote and produced some of his early plays, including To Stir the God of Iron and Our Husband Has Gone Mad Again. Rotimi returned to Nigeria in the 1960s and began teaching at the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, where he also founded a theatre company. His most famous play, The Gods Are Not to Blame, published in 1968, is an African adaptation of Sophocles' Oedipus Rex, using Yoruba tradition and language to explore faith, identity, and leadership. Other notable works include Kurunmi, Ovranwem, Nubaisi, and Hopes of the Living Dead. Throughout his career, Rotimi used drama to reflect on Nigerian history, politics, and social issues. A strong patriot, he chose to live and work in Nigeria, helping to build the nation's theatre culture. Rotimi's legacy lives on as a pioneer of African drama, whose works continue to inspire critical thoughts and cultural pride. We now move on to the title, The Gods Are Not to Blame. This suggests that the gods should not be blamed for human suffering, mistakes, or tragic outcomes. The title implies that while some gods in the story's context may reveal destiny through prophecies, they do not control our actions. However, this title can be considered an irony at the end of the story. Well, you can tell me what you think, whether really the gods are not to blame or they are to blame by the time we are done with this analysis. Let's move on to the setting of The Gods Are Not to Blame. It is a fictional Yoruba kingdom in pre-colonial Nigeria. The story unfolds in and around the palace of King Adetusa in Kutuje, in Ijekun, Ikolu, and Ide, all which are fictional towns. Other notable locations include the bush paths and forests, all of which are central to community life in a traditional African setting. These locations reflect the communal lifestyle and the importance of oral tradition, divination, and the gods in decision making. Let us move on to the plot analysis. We begin with the prologue. The drama begins with the narrator offering a flashback of the activities that led the then king of Kutuje, King Adetusa and Queen Ojuola, to sacrifice their premier son. Due to his faith, this boy will kill his own father and then marry his own mother. Fast forward 32 years on, there is a new king in Kutuje due to the death of King Adetusa. After the death of the King Adetusa, the people of Ikolu attacked the people of Kutuje, killed hundreds, they seized hundreds, and enslaved hundreds more, leaving them suffering until Odewale rescued them. The people of Kutuje appreciated Odewale. In doing so, they made him king because he was of Ijekun tribe, and they broke tradition to make him king. Per tradition, he married Queen Ojuola and had 4 children with her: Adewale, Adebisi, Oyeyemi, and Adeyinka. After 11 years of Odewale rescuing the people of Kutuje and freeing them, a plague has befallen them, leaving them with mourning sorrow. There is trouble in the land. Joy has broken and scattered. Peace too is no more. We proceed to Act 1. The setting of Act 1 is at the palace, where the townspeople have gathered to complain and mourn about their suffering to King Odewale, and ask why they have no remedy for the plague in their land. They say, when a chameleon brings forth a child, is not that child expected to dance? As we have made you king, act as a king. The people share their woes, and King Odewale shares that his family is not exempted from this plague. His children are also unwell. He shares that Aderopo has been sent to Ile-Ife, the land of Orunmila, to ask the all-seeing God why they are in pain. He urges the people to go into the forest and get help to treat their ailments instead of turning to him for solutions, as he is a mere man like them. In Act 1, Scene 2, we see Aderopo return from Ile-Ife, but when asked about the news from Ile-Ife, he hesitates to give details about the man who killed King Adetusa. The truth is that the past king was killed by a man who still lives among them, which is the reason why a curse has befallen them. Aderopo eventually breaks the news from Ile-Ife. At this point, King Odewale inquires how King Adetusa died on the way to visit his mom, and they explain it was through a robbery attack. According to the only surviving guard, King Odewale vows to bring out the murderer of the late king and ensure he gets a miserable death. We move to Act 2. In Act 2, Scene 1, Aderopo brings Baba Fakunle, a soothsayer, to the palace. Odewale welcomes him with appellations together with the chiefs, who praise him as a powerful seer. After Odewale explains the plague that has befallen his land, instead of Baba Fakunle revealing the murder of King Adetusa, he decides to leave as he says he smells the truth. This angers King Odewale and the chiefs. The king commands the bodyguards to prevent him from leaving, which leads to an altercation. Baba Fakunle reveals that Odewale is the murderer and calls him a bed sharer, implying he is not fit to be king and to share a bed with Queen Ojuola. Baba Fakunle is pushed out of the palace, and he warns Odewale to sit privately and ponder over what he has said. In Act 2, Scene 2, Odewale reflects on himself as an Ijekun man who was made king in Kutuji, ignoring that not all may have supported his kingship. He directs his accusation to Aderopo, the son of King Adetusa, who should have been king after his father passed on. Again, as Aderopo suggested bringing in the seer Baba Fakunle, King Odewale calls for Aderopo, accuses him of plotting against him, and swears to get him out of the land. The other chiefs blame the seer's old age for the miscommunication. The seer is too old, my lord. He does not know what he is saying. In Act 2, Scene 3, King Odewale and Queen Ojuola go to the town to check the well-being of the townspeople, and the royal bard accompanies them. In Act 2, Scene 4, at the palace, Queen Ojuola shows King Odewale that she supports his decisions while inquiring about the feud between him and her son Aderopo. However, Odewale refuses to share the issues because he claims the blood is still hot. This further emphasizes his anger issues, which eventually leads to his downfall. In Act 3, Scene 1, at the palace, a man shabbily dressed like a madman is prevented from seeing the king, but Queen Ojuola intervenes and offers the man food and a drink. This man is Alaka, Odewale's good friend from Ijekun. When he finally meets Odewale, they discuss why he left Ijekun for Ide. According to their discussion, Odewale left with a reason to return only after his parents died. He told Alaka how he killed an old man with guards who were harvesting land he bought at Ide after an altercation. The old man called his tribe a bush tribe. He struck the man with his horse. Seeing he had killed the man, he ran, crossed 5 rivers, and then came to this present land, Kutuji. In Act 3, Scene 2, Odewale summons his chiefs to the palace in search of King Adetusa's murderer. Ojuola asks for the second time why Odewale is banishing Aderopo, and he says it is because Aderopo seeks his downfall, because he wants to be king. Now remember, Aderopo is the child of Ojuola and King Adetusa. Ojuola explains that Baba Fakunle is a liar. After all, when King Adetusa died, he said it was his own blood that killed him, which is not true because earlier he had made them kill her firstborn with King Adetusa because the boy had brought bad luck. Ojuola blames the chiefs for not calling the seer a liar, for calling the king a murderer, and here king refers to Odewale because the bodyguards who came back reported that 10 robbers near Ide murdered the king. At this point, Odewale becomes anxious and demands exact answers about where and when the previous king was murdered. Odewale decides that they must bring Bonka, the bodyguard of the king, who returned with news of his death. The royal guards, Agidi, Labata, and Akilapa, leave to find Bonka. In Scene 3, Ojuola asks Alaka to convince Odewale to eat and not worry. Alaka informs Odewale of his father's death, which Odewale considers good news. He gathers the people to listen to Alaka's news about his father. Odewale goes on to share a prophecy he was told by an old man, his father's brother, that he was a butterfly trying to be a bird, which means his identity was questionable. He went to an oracle, and the priest confirmed he would kill his father and marry his mother, but to escape, he should not run but stay where he was. He disobeyed and left to avoid the curse. But Alaka interrupted him and told him the parents, that is Hunter, Ogundele, and Mobike, he knew were not his biological parents. This news angered Odewale as it meant he was a bastard. But Alaka asked them to speak privately. However, he wanted Alaka to be seized and dealt with. Alaka revealed that he had picked him from the bush. At this point, Queen Ojuola collapses at this news. When she recovers and is up, Alaka still describes Bonka, the man who left Odewale as a baby in the forest. Odewale begins to ask about his identity. The armed guards of Odewale have arrived at this point with Bonka. In Act 3, Scene 4, Odewale questions Bonka about his work in Kutuji. When he is questioned about the death of King Adetusa, he confesses it was a man who killed him and not 10 robbers. Alaka questions him if he remembers him. After several descriptions, he hugs Alaka and reveals that he gave the child of King Adetusa and Queen Ojuola meant to be sacrificed to Alaka. Odewale confirms that his current wife, the queen, is his mother, with whom he has had 4 children. He turns to the bedroom where he finds the lifeless body of Queen Ojuola and the dagger she used to stab herself. Odewale uses the dagger to pluck his eyes out. He apologizes to his brother Aderopo and tells the people not to blame the gods, but his weak love for his tribe led him to kill his father. Now blind, he calls his children and leads them out of the town of Kutuji together. He tells the people not to stop them or else he will curse them. Now this brings us to the end of our discussion of the plot analysis of The Gods Are Not to Blame. Don't forget to hit the like button, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Until I come your way again, keep learning and be the best version of yourself. Let's move on now to character analysis of The Gods Are Not to Blame. We begin with the protagonist, Odewale. Odewale is the central character and tragic hero of the play. He is a courageous and intelligent man who becomes king of Kutuji. However, he is also quick-tempered, proud, and stubborn. These flaws and the destiny he tries to escape lead to his downfall. Unknown to him, he kills his father and marries his mother, fulfilling a prophecy made at his birth. His journey represents the tension between fate and free will. His ignorance of his true identity and attempts to outrun destiny only pushes him closer to it. Let's move on to the character King Adetusa. He is the former king of Kutuji and Odewale's biological father. Though he appears briefly, he is central to the play's conflict. His death at the hands of Odewale, his son, fulfills the tragic prophecy, and Adetusa represents the generational link in the cycle of faith. Let's move on to Queen Ojuola. Ojuola is the queen mother of Kutuji and Odewale's real mother. Though neither knows it until it's too late, she later marries Odewale, her son, unknowingly. Her character reflects maternal love and tragedy. She is a good queen who was patient and supported Odewale by encouraging him all the time. Upon discovering the truth, she takes her own life. Her fate is closely tied to the fulfillment of the prophecy of Odewale. Let's move on to the character Baba Fakunle. He is a blind Ifa priest and prophet. During a public consultation at the palace of Odewale, he reveals part of the truth about Odewale's identity. That is the murderer of the past king, Adetusa. His role is crucial because he serves as the voice of spiritual truth. However, his puzzling language causes confusion and fear, triggering the chain of events leading to Odewale's eventual downfall. Let's look at the character Aderopo. He is the prince and Odewale's foster brother. He is well educated and serves as a royal messenger. He warns and challenges Odewale at various points, especially during the crisis in Kutuji, when Odewale wrongfully accuses him of betrayal. His intelligence and patience contrast with Odewale's impulsiveness. Aderopo showed support for Odewale even though he knew he was to be the rightful king after his father's death. Let's move on to the character Alaka. He is Odewale's childhood friend and fellow farmer. He brings the truth about Odewale's past, revealing that Odewale was adopted and originally from the kingdom of Kutuji. Alaka serves as a link between Odewale's past and present. His arrival marks a turning point in the plot. Some quotes by him are "Ignorance makes the rat call the cat to a fight." That is, only a fool challenges a much stronger opponent. It is warning against overestimating oneself due to ignorance, reference to Odewale. And again, secrets of the owl must not be known in daylight. That some truths are too dangerous or mysterious to be exposed publicly. Timing and discretion are important when revealing secrets, and all these proverbs were targeted to advise Odewale, his friend. Bonka. He was the messenger of King Adetusa, king of Kutuji. He was a man that learned. He was a kind-hearted man who refused to follow the orders of the Ogun priest to kill the king's first son of the king. Rather, he chose to give the child away to Alaka, a man from Ijekun. In spite of his kindness, Bonka can also be described as a disobedient messenger. His disobedience led to the cursed child fulfilling his fate of marrying his mother and killing his father. He is also a liar for giving a false statement about how King Adetusa died. Even though King Adetusa was killed by one man, he lied he was killed by 10 robbers. This brings us to the end of our discussion of the key characters of The Gods Are Not to Blame. We move on now to some literary devices and the language and style of The Gods Are Not to Blame. So there's been the use of Nigerian local words like asufe, Eyije leaves, dogoyaro leaves, and so many other local Yoruba words. There's also the use of Nigerian tradition, that is the mention of gods, shrines, and costume, tying the child with cowries to symbolize sacrifice. Again, when we look at the language that has been used, there's also a lot of giving appellations to kings. Long may your highness live. We thank you, our Lord. May your reign be blessed. Long may the crown rest on your head and royal shoes on your feet. So it shows the culture of giving appellations to the king or kings. Move on to literary devices, and there's the use of euphemism, that is a polite or soft way of saying something that might be too direct or unpleasant or harsh, and it helps to talk about sensitive topics in a more acceptable way. For example, Kinadetsa has met rough death and passed into the land of her silent fathers. So this is an example of a euphemism. Then we have Bajoy has a slender body that breaks too soon, and we have Joy has been broken and scattered. We also have the use of rhetorical questions, a question that is meant to make a point but not to be answered. Let's look at an example. What did you do to save your twins from dying? This is an example of a rhetorical question. Again, Baba Fakun, if you had eyes, what would you see? Again, a chicken eats corn, drinks water, swallows pebbles, yet she complains of having no teeth. If she had teeth, would she eat gold? So this is a proverb, but also it is a rhetorical question. There's also the use of ellipses, that is the 3 dots, to show that something has been left out or it is a kind of a pause. Ellipses usually create or show hesitation or allow the reader to think or imagine what comes next. An example is, yesterday my twins died, both of them. My third. Unstrapping the baby on her back. Here, feel her. Feel how hot she is. Come feel. We also have all. Help us. Help us. We also have this example, he will come, your highness. I told him, the gods bear me witness. I told him, and he was coming too, from Iya Aburu. There's also the use of simile. Okay, and simile helps readers or listeners to understand something better by showing how it is similar to something, using the words as like or done. So an example is, sickness is like rain. To think like a rock in the middle of a lake, forever cooled by flowing waters. Now tired of doing nothing, you have all come like lobsters, carrying your large head of complaints to my doorsteps, comparing the people's problems that they've carried to lobsters with their large heads. Again, we have, thus far your words sound like fresh wine, full of sweetness, lack of substance. Another example is Baba Fakunle, blind but all-knowing, head downwards like a bat, and like a bat fully aware of the way the birds fly. Comparing Baba Fakunle's blindness, yes, all-knowingness, to a bat's ways. Then we have, your hot temper like a disease from birth is the curse that has brought you trouble. We also have another example. A man brought you there, wrapped in a white cloth like a sacrifice to the gods. So these are some examples of similes in The Gods Are Not to Blame. Let's look at an example of a metaphor. You offend the gods who gave you powers to heal us, old one. We are blind. So here, a metaphor compares two things by saying one thing is another. By saying that they were blind, is comparing them to people who are blind without some knowledge. There's also the use of repetition. It adds emphasis and makes the message stronger. For example, King Odewale, king of Kutuji, go sit down in private and think deep before darkness covers you up. Think. So the emphasis of think is what we are looking at here. Again, we have this example where man, gira, power, force, action. So all the repeated words that we see here give emphasis and it makes the message stronger. Sometimes it creates some rhythm and pattern. Let's look at hyperbole. That is when something small is made big. Exaggeration. It adds drama or humor and helps to express strong emotions. For example, his strength was the strength of 100 vexed lions. This is clearly an exaggeration. At this point, we want to move on to proverbs. Proverbs, because the gods are not to blame, is full of proverbs. And proverbs are short, wise sayings that give advice or express a truth about life. They make a message more meaningful and help to connect the story to the culture and wisdom of the people. So, let's look at this very first proverb. The future is not happy, but to resign oneself to it is to be crippled fast. And resignation to hardship leads to stagnation. In life, we will be faced with challenging circumstances, but we will have to make tough decisions before it is too late. Again, we see this other proverb. He who pelts another with pebbles asks for rocks in return, which means minor offenses may provoke severe retaliations. Another example is, it is not changing into a lion that is hard. It is getting the tail of a lion, and it means that it is easier to gain power than to manage it. Let's look at another proverb. Joy has a slender body that breaks too easily, and this means that happiness is fragile and fleeting. It does not last forever. Another proverb is, when the head of a household dies, the house becomes an empty shell, which means leadership loss causes confusion and disunity. When a chameleon brings forth a child, is not that child expected to dance? A leader is expected to fulfill his responsibilities as expected and not otherwise. This means a person is expected to act in line with their heritage or position. The people call on Odewale to live per his role as king here. When rain falls on the leopard, does it wipe off its spots? This means that a person's true nature cannot be changed. For only a madman will go and sleep when his roof is on fire. This means that ignoring urgent issues is foolish. The moon moves slowly, but by daybreak it crosses the sky. This means practice leads to success. Let's continue. Again, the secret of a home should be known first to the head of the home. Means family matters should be dealt with internally and in consultation with the head or the leader. It is a caution against outsiders interfering or secrets being exposed outside the household. A cooking pot for the chameleon is a cooking pot for the lizard. This means that people who share the same environment or faith are often subject to the same consequences. What affects one may affect another person equally. When the leaders we esteem so high can sell their honor for devil's money, then let pigs eat shame and men eat dung. When respected leaders lose their integrity for money or greed, then society has lost all dignity. It is a metaphorical way of saying corruption among leaders brings shame to all. He who drums for a sick man is himself a sick man. And it means that someone who supports or encourages a failing or a flawed cause may also be flawed. It suggests guilt or weakness by association. The proverb, the hyena flirts with the hen is happy not knowing that her death has come, means sometimes danger disguises itself as friendliness. Those who are naive may welcome their enemies unknowingly. If you think that you can drum for my downfall and hope that drum will sound, then your head is not good. If you plot against me, that is Odewale, and I believe you will succeed, you are foolish. It is a warning against betrayal or conspiracy. If you think like a tortoise, you can plot against me without my cutting you down first with my tortoise tricks, then fellow madness is in your liver. Don't underestimate me. I am also cunning. This refers to Odewale. If you think you can outwit me with slyness, you are gravely mistaken. And this interaction was between Odewale and then Aderopo. If you think to have heavy suspicions is wisdom, then your head is not well. This means constant suspicion does not equal intelligence. It reflects paranoia or insecurity. Let's look at the proverb. Two rams cannot drink from the same bucket at the same time. They will lock horns. Means two powerful or prideful individuals cannot share leadership or space peacefully because conflict is inevitable in this case. If you rise too early, the dew of life will soak you, and this means acting prematurely can lead to hardship or exposure, and timing is key to success. Again, the proverb, ignorance makes the rat call the cat to a fight, means only a fool challenges a much stronger opponent. It's a warning against overestimating oneself due to ignorance. The proverb, because the farm owner is slow to catch the thief calls the farm owner thief, means when authority delays justice, the guilty become bold and even accuse the innocent. Delay in leadership breeds injustice. Again, the proverb, venom of viper does nothing to the back of a tortoise, may imply some people or things are immune to harm or slander. Strength can lie in being unbothered or well protected. Let's look at the proverb. The grinding stone says you must kneel to my power, and it means authority or tradition demands submission. To get what you want, you must acknowledge power or process. The proverb, the monkey and gorilla may claim oneness, but the monkey is a monkey and gorilla, means people may claim equality, but differences in nature or status remain. Superficial sameness doesn't erase true distinctions. The proverb, the mangrove tree dwells in the river, but does that make it a crocodile? So proximity to something does not change your true nature. Being in an environment doesn't automatically make you belong to it. The butterfly thinks himself a bird. This means some people overestimate their abilities or status. It cautions against arrogance and self-deception, issues of identity. The proverb, secrets of the owl must not be known in daylight, means some truths are too dangerous or mysterious to be exposed publicly. Timing and discretion are important when revealing secrets. Now this brings us to the end of our discussion of the literary devices. Let's move on now and discuss the themes. We begin with the first theme, fate versus free will. This is the central theme of The Gods Are Not to Blame, as the play explores whether we are controlled by destiny, that is fate, or our choices, that is free will. Odewale tries to escape a prophecy that he will kill his father and marry his mother, but ends up fulfilling it. That is, this boy will kill his father and then marry his own mother. This theme is foreshadowed right from the start. This prophecy at the beginning sets the tragic tone. It is also ironic that despite his efforts, Odewale still walks right into the fate he tried to avoid. We move on. Rotimi suggests that fate is powerful, but our choices can speed it up or worsen it. Odewale's pride and temper contribute to his downfall, so free will still plays a part. We all have a role to play in our lives, whether there is faith or we have our free will. We should make good decisions. Leadership and responsibility is our second theme. The play questions what makes a good leader. Is it a birthright, wisdom, bravery, or morality? Odewale is praised for saving Kutiji, but struggles with suspicion and pride. Odewale is a hero but also flawed due to his quick temper. He leads the people, rightly caring for them and even leading by example by getting help to treat his own family when he tells the people to go and get help for their families. Odewale as a leader teaches students that leaders must be wise, not just brave. A good leader listens, seeks truth, and does not act on impulse. Guilt and self-discovery. At the play's climax, after Odewale spends time blaming others for the chaos in Kutuji, he discovers he is the murderer and has married his mother. His guilt is intense. This guilt causes him to pluck out his eyes and leads to the play's tragic end. His blinding himself shows deep inner shame and the burden of truth. This powerful theme shows how truth can destroy and set us free. Odewale's tragedy reminds us that we must face our past. We must face our past, no matter how painful. Let's look at the theme ignorance and knowledge. Many characters live in ignorance, especially Odewale. The play emphasizes that truth, though painful, is necessary for growth and justice. Ignorance makes the rat call the cat to a fight. This shows how a lack of knowledge can lead to dangerous mistakes. There is also dramatic irony as the audience knows Odewale's true identity long before he does, emphasizing Odewale's lack of patience and humbly examining the facts that were presented to him. This theme is important for us. Indeed, knowledge is power. However, we must also be brave enough to accept the truth when it comes. Tradition versus modernity. The play compares traditional beliefs like prophecies and shrines with human reasoning and politics. Characters like Baba Fakunle and the townspeople rely on oracles, while Odewale struggles to balance reason and belief. The play's title is ironic. The title suggests that the gods are not responsible, yet everything is driven by prophecy. Symbolically, the gods represent tradition. Odewale's resistance symbolizes modern questioning. Rotimi cleverly critiques naive belief. While tradition is part of identity, we should also question what we are told and use wisdom in decision making. Now let's go on and look at some likely examination questions. 1. Evaluate the significance of the prologue in introducing the conflicts of the play. 2. Discuss the role of Odewale as a tragic hero in The Gods Are Not to Blame. 3. Examine the character of Odewale and how his actions lead to his downfall. 4. How do the actions of the villagers and chiefs influence the development of the plots? 5. Explore the theme of faith versus free will in The Gods Are Not to Blame. 6. Discuss how the theme of leadership is portrayed in the play. 7. How is the theme of identity revealed in the play? 8. Examine the use of proverbs and their effect on the tone and meaning of the play. Now this brings us to the end of our discussion of the complete discussion of The Gods Are Not to Blame. I hope this lesson was useful to you. Don't forget to put in your comments, your questions, like this video and support this channel. Until I come your way again, keep learning and be the best version of yourself.